Welcome back to the Pioneers in Aged Care podcast. Joining us in this episode is David Cox, Managing Director of Curtin Heritage Living. The sponsors for this episode are Aurelia Legal and Keen Care. Aurelia Legal is an immigration law firm focusing on the aged care sector, specializing in navigating 482 and 186 visa sponsorships. Keen Care is a comprehensive software platform revolutionizing operations for caregiving agencies in aged care by streamlining everything from scheduling and client management to billing. I'm your host, Anthony Nguyen, and I'm here for aged care. Awesome. Welcome back to the Pioneers in Aged Care podcast. Here we have David Cox, the Managing Director and CEO at Curtin Heritage Living.
Correct.
Now, it's not just Curtin Heritage Living, the residential aged care organization. You've got Gibney Restaurant as well. Does that fall under your remit?
Sort of. So we have a couple of different brands. So we actually have Curtin Heritage Living, which is the parent organisation. We then have Shine Community, which is our home care or in-home care provider.
Yep.
We've got the Heritage Collective, which we're sitting in today. And the Heritage Collective is a group of heritage buildings that provides community benefits. So we actually provide programming for the wider community, not just older people. That includes arts and events. We provide things like Seniors Weeks to 4 local councils and a whole lot of other programming. And then we have commercial amenities, and the commercial amenities are aimed to actually bring in income that then fund those benevolent programs that we run. So that includes Gibney, the restaurant. So that is actually a tenancy for Kalis Hospitality Group, and we're in partnership with them. It's a medical centre called Salil, which has a number of GPs and specialist doctors that are actually working out of the practice, and pathology and other things like that. And then an art gallery, and the art gallery is run by Linton & Kay, which is a well-known art provider in Western Australia, and that works in really well with our art programming through the Heritage Collective. So we're trying to get a whole lot of different entities. Part of it is so that we can be self-sustaining without government funding, and that's where the commercial elements come in. And part of it is so that we can actually integrate with community. So having a great restaurant like Gibney brings up a really amazing reputation. It just won the best restaurant in WA and the best new restaurant in Australia. And that brings a reputation for aged care that is hard to get otherwise. So we use third parties to actually do that, to bring that reputation into us. Yeah.
And that's what I really love about your model. It's you've really brought the community aspect into aged care. So the line separating aged care and community at Curtin Heritage, I can't find that line, because people are being drawn into every little service, and they're not little services, they're amazing services. Like Gibney Restaurant, I've experienced it and have enjoyed it on multiple occasions. My family loves it. This is the Heritage Collective.
So this is called the Club Lounge.
Yep.
So this is used for small events. So it looks like a bar, it feels like a bar.
You'd have weddings here, right?
We have had weddings, we've had funerals, we've had wakes, we've had 21st birthday parties, we've had engagement parties. And it's used by our immediate community, so residential care residents. Directly opposite us, we've got an independent living community. It's used by our in-home clients, and then used by commercial amenities.
You've got a cinema.
Well. We've got theatres. Yes. We've got, what else? We've got private dining areas. We've got art centre below us. We've got a whole lot of different meeting spaces, and they're used by everyone, including corporates. And the idea is, and it seems to be working really well, is that we're trying to integrate aged care into the community. And people come in and that they are, first of all, amazed that we don't have a fence around our environment. So we have, just beyond us here is a big park. The idea is that people come in and they walk their dogs, and people then living in our residential care community or independent living community get to interact with those people. They get to use the amenities as well, but then they get to feel like they are part of our wider community. For us, that's really important because it is creating an engagement, it's creating socialisation, it's also creating a pipeline for referrals in the future because our community come in, they might have their first touch point is using the park and thinking, gosh, what is this place? Is it a hotel? Is it a resort? Is it fancy apartments? And then them clicking that it's an aged care precinct and going, oh, this is aged care, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
And then it's them having a touch point maybe through the restaurant or through the medical centre, and then eventually having a touch point through home care and coming through that pipeline and having a familiarity, but also a comfort that this is actually a place that's open and inviting. And we're deliberately try to create really beautiful spaces that are appealing not just to older people. So you'll see in this room, it's quite contemporary furniture.
It's beautiful.
And we want it to be comfortable for a whole lot of different people, including our staff, because we want our staff to be really proud and to enjoy where they actually work. So
and for at least for WA, I don't know. There are some providers who are trying to do something similar and creating a community around their nursing homes to break down those barriers. And I love that people are doing that, but you've done it in your own unique way in having how many Michelin stars is Gibney?
Don't know. I don't think they do Michelin stars, but they're a chef hat restaurant.
Chef hat, okay.
So I think they've got a couple of chef hats. They recently in the WA Awards had basically a clean sweep. So they had the best new restaurant, the best sommelier, the best bartender, and the best wine list. And so that was a bit of a clean sweep. And we don't have the skill sets to do that ourselves, so that's why we're partnered with the Kalis Group, because we know they do a really great job. They've got a really good reputation in the area that we are. And so we kind of leverage the people around us in the community that do things better than what we do, so that we can deliver a service that is really appealing to a whole lot of different people. And we've seen that. We've seen lots of aged care providers say, well, let's open a cafe. And the cafe is within the nursing home. It's a little bit hard to access. It might not be super contemporary, and they're hard to run. They're really hard to run. And I think that we recognise that we don't have that skill set. I'm a nurse, and we provide care services predominantly, but we know that we want to provide services that are appealing to other people. So getting in and partnering with other people for us is super important.
But the amazing thing, and I think one of the most important things that you've done is create that feeling where, you know, when you're a kid and you're going to your grandparents' place and there's always a little adventure, you're going to visit them, you're going to have fun. Yeah. That feeling versus going to a standard nursing home is two distinct feelings. I think you've brought that feeling back to, if they were to visit their grandparents here, that feeling comes back. If my grandparents were at Curtin Heritage Living, if they were one of the residents, I'd be pretty excited to go see them because you've got the amazing beach and you've got everything else that you've mentioned. Yeah. So it's not visiting them in a nursing home, we're visiting them at their home, which is looked after by some nurses as well. Yeah, exactly.
It's a really nice way to describe it. And I think of it purely selfishly. So I look at it at how I want to be looked after when I'm older and how my family want to interact with me when I'm older. And I have a really lasting memory of when I went and saw my grandmother in a nursing home. She went to a really, really lovely nursing home in Victoria when she was palliating. And you went into her room and she had a single room and you sat down on an institutional bed and you actually sat on her bed. That was the only place that you could actually sit. And there was really nothing to do. And so it was really quite an awkward interaction. She didn't want me sitting on her bed because that was her bed. Yep. I'd never been into a bedroom when I went to a house. And I just thought the whole concept was really weird. And so our care suites are suites. So there are spaces for people to actually sit. There's spaces for people to actually get out. So every level in our residential care facility, for example, here, will have outdoor areas. So there are gardens. We have podium gardens on every single level. We have activities on every single level. And then we have what's called destination spaces. And they're open. So you can either go into an arts centre, or you can go to a movie theatre, or you can go to a chapel or a beauty salon or gym, and a whole lot of different other spaces. And there's spaces for people to go and interact in a meaningful way. We don't have any big communal areas where we have these huge activities, because there is no way in the world that when I get older, I'm going to sit in a bingo hall with 50 other people. I'm going to want to interact with maybe 20 people and interact on an activity that I want to do and is possibly run by somebody that's not part of the nursing home, which is what we are really doing. So we have a volunteer coordinator, for example, whose sole job is to create activity through volunteers. And again, this is part of our mission as a community. So we're trying to engage with the community and trying to engage in a meaningful way, not in an institutional way. And everything we do, we try to make non-institutional, because when I get older, there is no chance that I'm going to be part of an institution.
Yeah.
And it's the same as everyone else my age. And when you're planning for aged care, you can't plan for now. You can't plan for that cohort who are satisfied with what they're given, which is very much the generation that have gone through the depression and wars. We have to plan for the next generation, and they are going to be infinitely more savvy, more demanding, but also infinitely more capable of actually paying for services. Which is an important part of what we're about.
I love that you've described your inspiration on, because I was going to ask, like, how did this come about? When did you join Curtin Heritage?
So I've been on the board for 10 years.
Okay.
It's the longest job I've ever had.
But it would have been so different when you joined. At what point did you go, this is my vision, this is what inspires me, this is how I want it to be, even for myself? At what point did you put it all together? Because it would have been a huge undertaking.
Yeah, it's interesting. It goes way back beyond that. I used to run past this spot maybe 20 years ago, and there was a little nursing home here. And this location, so we've got other locations, but this location's really special to me, because I always used to look at it, and it used to actually make me think, what could we actually do with aged care? Because it was the most amazing location with a view over the ocean in probably the wealthiest part of WA, and it had a quite institutional aged care facility that was built partly anywhere from the 1800s all the way through to the 1990s. And at the front it had 3 portholes, and 3 people could look outside of those windows, and there were 80-something residents in the nursing home. And I was like, they completely have not thought about what those people want inside that institution. And so I always had in the back of my mind, I would love to get in there and do something to this place. And by pure chance, I got asked to sit on the board 10 years ago, and I absolutely fell in love with the organisation. It's a community-based, not-for-profit group of really, really well-meaning people that want to do great things. And being in the location we are gives us the capacity to do a little bit more, because of the capacity to get higher RADs. So it really gave us the opportunity to think outside of the box and do something different. And you know, we are so lucky because of the location we're in and the assets we've got. But we've been able to create something that's special, that has driven many more assets that we can now use for greater benefit for other people. So people get surprised when they come past and they think that they don't think we're a not-for-profit because we look like a luxury hotel.
Yes.
And we like that. But we also like the fact that this has actually given us something that we can actually be sustainable as a not-for-profit. And I think not-for-profits sometimes get caught up in the thought that they have to be a not-for-profit. But we think that you actually have to be quite commercial and you have to be quite consumer-driven so that you can actually benefit other people. For example, we've got luxury apartments. The apartments have actually got the highest price per square metre out of any apartments in WA, and they're independent living apartments.
Yeah, wow.
So under a lease for life, so they're not freehold. And because we've been able to do that, because we've been able to drive a community, create a need, create beautiful spaces, but create places that people want and need, And because of that, it's given us income or assets that we can use to do many, many other things. And I think that should be the purpose of a not-for-profit.
Just driving sometimes, we go to the beach and we drive down and we always have a look and we're just amazed at this, because I remember coming here 3 years ago. Was it 3 years ago, 4 years ago? But you were still building, and I saw the pictures and I thought...
A big pile of dirt.
Yeah, big pile of dirt, but I saw the pictures of what you were building. You showed me a few pictures and I thought, that's not a nursing home, that's, like luxury apartments, that's what it looks like. And then as if that didn't blow me away already, that the whole community aspect, the restaurant, all the other aspects, what you've got here, it's kudos to you.
It's been a lot of people. And a lot of the people are actually the community, because the community actually designed the place in consultation with us. So we had, I think it was over 20 community consultation sessions to actually design it. So in addition to consulting with the residential care community as well. So we had residents and family members from residential care community designing the residential care facility. And I think the biggest feather in our cap is that a lot of people that actually went to those community consultation sessions are now residents. And they've actually seen this as an aspirational place to be, not a place where they're forced to be. So we've found that people have come in at a much earlier stage than what they would in other residential care facilities, or in their apartments. They've actually sat down and thought, where am I going to be in 5 years' time? And they've actually planned, which is highly unlike aged care, because usually it's a crisis and you're forced into care. And we find that has actually driven community a lot more, because people over the last 2-3 years that we've been building have got to know each other, because we've had sessions every month giving people updates, build up this community, and then they've created referrals to each other, which has been just tremendous. Because it's created sales, so we sold out very, very quickly. So we'd sold out stage 2 of our development before we'd even planned for it, which was a bit awkward. But then it's created this ginormous wait list. Now the wait list is almost all exclusively from people in the local area.
For the majority, I'd say 90-95% of families, when they're discussing transitioning their parents, grandparents into a nursing home, it's a feeling of a guilt. Maybe I don't want to do this. How can we keep them at home longer? We have to do it. There's that a lot of negativity around that discussion.
There is.
But you've created a sense of excitement, like they're looking forward. They're trying to get on the wait list to be here.
And to be honest, a lot of them still actually have that guilt. But that guilt is diminished when you actually know that you've actually got somewhere nice to go to. And it's actually a lot of the times the residents themselves are actually driving that decision. And that's really, really good, because it actually gives control to the person that's making the decision. And so, and again, we talk about it being aspirational. We would love aged care to be aspirational, but the reality is it's a tough gig, and it is associated with negativity. And so what we actually have to do is turn that negativity and find out what is positive about the experiences we can give. And for us, it is around the physical environment, but it's also around that socialisation and that interaction with community. So if we can continue that and make people feel like they're engaged, even when they can't participate, for us, then we've actually ticked some boxes and we've made that journey into aged care more tolerable. Because I don't think there's anyone in reality that would say, my goal in life is to move into residential care. I think the reality is you do lose a sense of privacy, you do lose a sense of control, but I suppose our job is to make it as easy as possible and as aspirational as humanly possible. And so a lot of it is the physical design, but a lot of it is attitude and coming into a facility where the culture is embracing and really, really wants that interaction with society. So, and that's us.
This next bit I want to get into, I want to talk about your journey into aged care. You started as a nurse. How long have you been in aged care? Why have you stuck around? And what are you loving about it? And what are you looking forward to because there are a lot of innovations and changes and This, with AI and everything, this next 5 years, I have no idea what it's going to look like.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting sort of sphere, and I've actually always seen aged care as exciting. As a registered nurse, I actually specialise in intensive care. I always thought that to have control as a nurse and to have an impact, you'd need to go for the highest acuity, the most complicated environment, and I love that environment. I then went into biotech, so I went into education and then into business development in biotech. So I was really lucky to be involved in some quite amazing startups, predominantly Australian startups. So things like I don't know if you've heard of the Fiona Wood spray on skin, which is called clinical cell culture.
You're involved in that?
Yes, I helped to commercialise that, and an artificial cornea from the Lions Eye Institute, which was spun out into an organisation that was sold into the States. And then a heart assist device as well. And so really, really high tech, really, really cutting innovation, very, very high paced. And I absolutely loved it. But one of the things I didn't love about it was the connection with people, because it is very much around innovation, commercialisation and money. I had the opportunity through my wife's family, who actually owned a small nursing home, and my wife's dad became very unwell, and we made the decision to actually leave that biotech environment at the stage we're living in the UK and come back to Australia and run that and eventually own it. And it was a really, really big change. So it was a little nursing home. It was 40-something beds. It was a little bit old, a little bit run down. It hadn't been managed well because Christina's dad was unwell for a long time. And the thing that really struck me was that it had some amazing people in there, and they worked really hard. They worked for very, very little thanks, and they loved their job. And I really, really made a connection with those people, and still to this day, that little place which was called Embleton Nursing Home, it still has an amazing special place in my heart. And so I wanted to replicate that, and we eventually grew it into a great business, and we sold it to a very large organisation.
Can you say who
to Regis, to the Regis Group.
Which one was that?
It's called Regis Embleton.
Embleton, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, and then moved into consulting because I wasn't allowed to own my own business again through the sale, and I kind of missed it. I really missed actually having that connection, and so when I had the opportunity to come onto the board of Curtin. I loved the organisation so much. When the CEO role came about, I actually applied for it because I loved the organisation so much. And so, I see this now as my dream job because we're small but big. So we've got 500 staff, about to grow quite significantly again. But I get to know people's names, and I get to interact with them every day, and I get to sort of go out and talk to residents and clients, and I have that perfect job where it's large enough that I've got people around me to help me, but small enough that I get to still know people, and that's pretty unique in our industry. So
something I've noticed about you is, when you say this is your dream job, I can see it every time I see you, whether we're interacting. Sometimes I see you at a conference and you're walking by, and you've always got this pep in your step. You've always got this glow. You're never weary. You're always enthusiastic and looking forward to the.
Yeah, not always.
Not always. Well, whether you feel like inside or not, I can. It's just the energy you emit to others.
Yeah. So, there's something I love about this industry. There's things that also get me down, like everybody else. I hate all the change. The change can be fantastic, it's challenging, but it can wear you down as well. It'd be great if we had a little time without that change. But I also embrace change. So I'm one of those people that really, really like to drive, and the people that work around me know that is actually a big driver. So we always have to have a new project coming along and doing something. And but I genuinely really love the people that I work with, and I love the culture of our organisation, because it is embracing. So it's a genuinely nice place to be. Yeah. And I think that's our industry. I think it's a group of really well-meaning people in the whole that work really, really hard. We all work really hard, and because of it, you actually have to pitch in and help each other. In the hospital system, when I worked in the hospital system, it's quite competitive, especially in somewhere like intensive care. It's a little bit combative sometimes. and you didn't have that same camaraderie that you have when you're in the trenches of aged care. I think because of that, I like the industry, and we actually do an amazing thing for people. We actually really help a lot of people, help people that don't want to be helped sometimes, but it's a really, really big reward to be able to make a difference to people. Yeah.
You're a big advocate for AI and technology.
Yeah.
What are you using, or what do you see out there that is going to reshape the industry?
Yeah, for us, the use of AI was initially in falls detection for us. So we actually have in all of our centres AI sensors in each resident room.
Okay.
And that is actually initially detecting falls, but it's also detecting behaviours. So people pacing that might indicate that they've got urinary tract infections. It's looking at people at risk of going out on balconies. And it's actually given us this great ability to change the design of our care suites. So our care suites have quite long corridors to actually get into, so that creates like an entryway which gives privacy. Our residents can lock their doors, they can actually stay in their rooms at night without us going into them, because we have the security of having these AI sensors picking up their behaviours, and that's really changed the way we deliver care. It's got rid of fallout mats, which I think were the bane of my life before, and those awful sensors that go off all the time. So it gives our staff security that when these sensors are going off, that it's generally a meaningful response. Yeah. And they've also got the capacity to actually look on their phones to see if it is a meaningful response. So that has changed the way we actually deliver care. So it's made care interventions more meaningful. It hasn't reduced the amount of staff we use or anything like that. It's just made the way we work smarter. And so now we actually then extend that to facial recognition at lifts and at doorways, so that instead of locking the door for everyone, we can actually have doorways that are open until a resident at risk of wandering actually gets to that doorway, and then it locks it unless the AI actually picks up that there's somebody sitting next to them, like a staff member or somebody else that will guide them safely through that door. And so then we use this technology, and we can drive this technology more and more and more as it gets smarter to create new things. So at the moment we're experimenting with the use of AI, or the use of biometric sensors for heart rate, breathing rate, sleep, and things like that, so that we can actually see.
Is this something you're developing in-house? Or?
No, we're not that smart. We steal ideas from other people. So it's a look, searching out there, looking for innovation, and then seeing how we can actually envelop that into our technology. So we're actually out there looking. It's another partner with another tech or AI technology that we can then put into this system. So, and in a lot of ways, it's actually driving the providers of these technologies to say, can we use this technology in our setting? A lot of this technology is in use in places, like, for example, the technology we use is used in Bunnings. And it's used to detect consumer behaviour. So it's actually looking at where people go in corridors. It's probably giving away trade secrets for Bunnings, but it actually looks at how people, their behaviours around shopping.
Wow,
so
I had no idea.
How are they going up and down corridors? Where are they parking in the car bays? What are the things that they're actually buying? What is their facial expression when they're buying stuff? Really freaky stuff.
Yeah.
But we're then adapting these types of technologies. And this technology actually came from Finland originally, and was used in an acute hospital setting for the detection of expressions. But it's also used in airports for looking at people dropping off packages that might be bombs and things like that. So looking at different technology and saying that is used for an environment, how can we actually pick it up? And so a lot of the conferences that I go to aren't aged care. It's other types of conferences to say what are other industries using? What are people exploring in different realms that we could then drag into our environment? Because we shouldn't be dictated by suppliers. We should be dictating what we want from suppliers.
Yeah.
And this is very much where we're about. We've got the luxury of having those resources to actually go out and experiment. And this was the first system that's been used like this in the Southern Hemisphere, I think possibly in aged care at all. And because we've got a great innovative board that's willing to experiment, we've got a great team of staff that are driven by change and by innovation, we can look at this sort of technology and drive it a little bit, and that's a big mission for us.
The biometric one, it's I had Catherine Stoddart on the podcast. I think she was episode 4, 3 or 4, and she was talking about that biometric sensors.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh yeah, that's like, years away. That's a great $1 billion idea. I can't believe you're actually looking into this now. It's something that you're exploring.
Yeah. There's a number of providers too. So CathSat, Brightwater, and Brightwater's a great innovator. So so like us, Brightwater are really out there looking for the next thing. And again, they've got a specific research arm, which they're really lucky to have, but they've got the ability to drive innovation. And this is where change will come about in our industry. And even in the smallest way, we're a really small provider, but we've kind of niched down and said, this is something we can do and we can kind of drive to make care better for the future and make staffing better and make life easier for the people that work for us. And it's something that we hopefully can actually make a change.
Yeah, we don't need one provider to do everything. We just need every provider just to find one thing that works for them, demonstrate it to everyone else. Someone else picks up on that. It's that cross-pollination.
So the labour agreement's a really good example of that. So we have the most amazing staff that work for us, but we have a load of people that work for us on short-term visas. Almost none of our staff actually come from the local area because it's quite a wealthy area. So all of our staff travel from a long way, and it's like we're on an island. It's a peninsula, so you sort of have one arterial road to get in, and it's not a great place to work because it's so far away. So we wanted to reward the people that actually do make that effort to come to us, and we have a whole lot of staff on short-term visas. We know that they have to pay private health, they have to pay private school fees, and they were having to work in multiple places and limited to 20 hours a fortnight. And we know they wanted to work for us, but they weren't allowed to. And so we worked for a long time to drive the labour agreement with Department of Home Affairs. And then we drove the unions, and we had United Voice, as they'll call them, whatever they're called now. And we were able to get the first labour agreement in Australia, and it revolutionised employment for us because all of a sudden we could reward their staff by giving them a path to permanent residency. They were eligible for Medicare, they got public school fees, so they didn't have to pay for private school fees, and they could work for us full time. So we actually drove down our FTEs by about 50 people.
Amazing. Using
all of our existing staff and increasing their hours. So continuity of care, especially in our home support program, and changing the lives of our staff. And this was a really big ask because it was a lot of effort to actually come up with a labour agreement. It was negotiating with politicians and doing all stuff that we don't want to do and we don't have time to do, but we saw it as being really important.
Yeah.
And that then has had a roll-on for a lot of other smaller and larger organisations that are in the same boat from us that benefit from the labour agreement because they could then sign up to that same labour agreement. That's not for everyone. The labour agreement's not for everyone, but for us it has absolutely revolutionised our staffing model. So,
yeah. Well, I've got a relevant question from the sponsor, one of the sponsors of this episode.
Hello, my name is Nilesh Bansal, founder and principal of Aurelia Legal. We specialize in helping aged care providers plan workforce strategies and assist them with visa applications for their staff. My question is, in recent years, have you explored different avenues for addressing workforce gaps? And if yes, what have been the key learnings from the same? Thank you.
That's a very relevant question given what we're talking about. So I think the labour agreement is a big one. So labour agreement gives us a pathway for 486 or 182. So generally we're going down straight through the 182 where staff with experience working for us. 182?
186?
186?
186, 482, yep.
Close, 482, 186.
Yeah.
So, generally staff that have worked for us for a number of years, we push straight through to permanent residency. So it's a really quick pathway of getting through to permanent residency once you've got that labour agreement. So that for us has been a really, really, really big change. I think the other thing that we've been working on over the last couple of years, 3 or 4 years, is around culture. and actually creating an embracing environment. So we have 4 values, and one of those values is around community. So first one's around clients, the second one is around community. And our community, a large part of that is our staff. And so it's going through and growing with our staff and showing them that they are actually part of us. They are not a subset or a lower set of our clients. They are equal to our clients and equal to our family, and that they are really part of us and that they really have a say. And trying to push that at every single opportunity is super important for us because it bonds people to us. So once you actually feel part of a community, you're bonded to that community. We have a very, very, very high retention rate compared to other providers. And it's not around money. We don't pay more than other people. We pay a little bit more than other people, but not in line with some of the very big providers. What bonds us is our community. So people come to us and they feel comfortable coming and working. They know that if they've got something to say or that they're worried about something, that they've got someone to complain to. And they know that if they need help, that they'll get help. And that for us is all about community. So we treat our resident population, our family population, our staff population the same. Yeah. Because we see ourselves as all being equal.
Even when there was a time where aged care workers weren't being paid very well, the 15% bump has been very appreciated by everyone in the industry. But even back then, as a recruiter, the percentage of people who call me saying, I need you to find me another job because I want to be paid more, that was one of the lower on the list. It was more so about the environment, about the culture. So with the pay bump now, it's more so all about finding a place where the values are aligned and the enjoyment is there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even when we were recruiting with you, recruiting for culture is really important. And we've failed sometimes at that because the way we lead is different to other organisations. We follow what's called the servant leadership model, which is we are the same level as everybody else. That's quite hard in a hierarchical sort of environment like aged care or hospitals, especially for nurses. Nurses, we were based on a military model, which is highly hierarchical, and we don't operate like that. And so culturally, we are quite different. And so sometimes people come to us and they just don't fit because of the way we lead and the way we manage, the way we teach is very, very different. And sometimes that creates clashes. And so we've changed the way we actually recruit and the way we interview now so that we are very much working on culture and working on that culture base and communicating what we're about. Because when you come to work for us, it is different to working for another organisation. When you're a facility manager or service manager or a CEO, you are picking up rubbish. And you are actually going out and helping people out of the chair into their frame.
You've got to do everything.
Yeah, but it's also demonstrating to people that this is a really important part of what we do. So that interaction and those task-based things that we do are really, really important. They're the most important things that we do because they're the things that are noticed by our clients or residents, our consumers. And so for us, that forms part of our servant leadership model. And it's not a model for everyone. Some people find it quite difficult to work in those constraints. So making sure that you recruit people that want to work in the culture you actually have and embracing the culture that you have, because it's important that we have different cultures in different organisations because we have different people and they fit in different squares and different circles. And so actually communicating that is really, really, really important in setting the culture, but also setting expectations. And that will then lead to retention and satisfaction. And I think we're getting there now. I think we definitely went through rocky roads when we were putting in this leadership model. But we're definitely getting there now, which is a good thing.
All right, since we're asking questions from sponsors, I've got one more question from another sponsor. This question is from John Tomchik, the General Manager at Keen Care. And Keen Care is a cloud-based software that helps you keep track of activities and streamline or translate progress notes. His question is, how do you balance the need for detailed record keeping with the time constraints of caregivers who are focused on providing direct care? Are there any technological solutions that can help with this?
Yes, I think there's tech products out there, but I think there's also looking at how you actually function in terms of your assessment and care planning. I think we tend in our industry to create these huge assessment forms, and because we think we want to comply with things, and we have this thought about what compliance is. We have a thought that if you provide really great care and you focus carers towards providing that great care, then you're going to meet the standards. And so our assessment tools are shorter, I think, than other organisations, and we try to minimise the input by carers as much as possible. So we use point of care devices as well, which I think is really important. So we use a device with an app that's very, very simple, and we focus them towards observations rather than long progress note writing. We don't think the progress note writing helps many people. I don't think many people read progress notes unless they are looking at it retrospectively. I don't think people look at care plans unless it's retrospective. So we need to create messaging as short and as quick and as efficient as humanly possible. We don't have nurse stations, so we don't have back of house offices where people hide and sit there and tap away, and nurses have a separate section because they move up and down our buildings. But our carers have a sort of a welcome desk, which is exposed, it's open, it's right at the front where everyone can actually see them. And then they have point of care devices where they actually enter their information. I think we capture more information because it's immediately accessible. If we're asking them to head back into an office and sit in front of a computer and type things in, then I think that information is lost. I think it's also using AI to capture things as well. So if we can actually use devices rather than people to capture observations, then I think that would actually help us along a lot. And then we can actually use humans to interpret what has actually been captured. So those observations around sleep, around pacing, around falls and things like that. If we can actually get a device that captures it, sends a signal that turns into a progress note, then that for us then helps us along the journey.
Those products are coming through, and it just helps free the caregivers to give the care that people are paying for.
Again, one of our values is simplicity. One of our 4 values is simplicity. So if we keep things as simple as humanly possible, then there's more of a chance of people capturing that data. If we ask them to get really technical and fill out a whole lot of stuff, then it's going to get less attractive for people to fill things in. Like if I fill out a bowel chart and I say, I've had my bowels open and the type of bowels, and then stop it there, then I've done a great job. If I then start getting them to put in a whole lot of descriptors and a whole lot of other information, the motivation for me to even start that form is lost. So we figure sometimes we're not capturing absolutely everything, but we're capturing each event, and I think that's the main thing. And we do. We capture events, which I really like. We've done things like incident reporting, hazard reporting, maintenance requests and things like that are all QR codes. So rather than people entering forms, we just have QR codes located around the place. They scan their device on that QR code, and then that goes through and says, what are you wanting to do? Are you wanting to do this, 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 or this? And then they go down that track, and we keep those incident forms really, really short. So we want a staff member to say something's happened, and then we want another resource like a manager then to say, okay, let's now start investigating and let's fill it with all the rest of the stuff. So a maintenance request is, where are you? Where is the issue? What is the issue? That's it.
Keep it simple.
That's it. And so we're not saying what do you think should be done about it and stuff like that, because that's going to be worked out later on. So then it goes through to a maintenance staff. They get flagged. They then see that report that come through, and then their job is to go and say, this is an issue here. Or the other thing, so the maintenance, for example, is, where is it? What is the issue? Have you tagged it? Have you taken it out of service if you can? So there's basic safety stuff. and then maintenance actually go in and work out what is the actual issue. They're able to prioritise it. They're able to see whether it's an urgent, because it might be resident related or not. They can see whether it's been flagged as a hazard, then it's an urgent issue, and then they can tackle it. They don't need to see a whole lot of other stuff. So keeping things as simple as humanly possible is important.
Love that. I want to dig into your story. Tell me, what else do you do outside of, we're talking about outside of work, outside of aged care, outside of nursing? Who is David at home in his personal life? Because this is a question that I like asking, because I still, even to this day, I go to a conference and there's still that trepidation and anxiety about approaching a CEO and just introducing myself. But if I knew what thread to pull out and what they were really interested in, what's a conversation or a topic that you will always be drawn to? What do you like talking about? What do you like doing?
Wow, I like doing a lot of stuff. So that's part of my problem. I'm lucky in that I've actually got a place down south in the wine and the water region.
Nice.
So I love water. So if I've got a choice, I would actually be out on the water. So either swimming or snorkeling, on a jet ski, on a boat if I can find a boat. Anything to do with water I love.
Yep.
I also love music. So I love experimenting with new music and listening to new stuff. And that's the conversation we had before, was that I'll go to wild and wacky concerts, or I'll go to a rave, or I'll go to a nightclub, or do all things that a 50-something-year-old person probably shouldn't be doing.
Who says you shouldn't be doing it?
Exactly. So I like trying new stuff. I actually came up with a thought a year ago that I'm going to have a year of yes. So whenever people would actually ask me to do things that were fun or adventurous or outside of my comfort zone, that I'd actually say yes.
That's where memories and stories are made.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking before. I've just been on a 6-day adventure into the outback at a Burning Man event, and it's something that a year ago there's absolutely no chance in the world that I actually would have gone to, but I actually went, was completely out of my comfort zone, and completely loved it.
So 2025 is your year of yes?
It was 2024 now. I'm
right,
extending it into my normal as 2025.
If anyone's got any requests,
so it's my normal
send him
now.
A request, because he's saying yes.
Depends. If it's work related, there's lots of no's. But if it's fun, then I'm tending to say yes. Because we constrain ourselves a lot, and we tend to focus on work a lot. I've always got a lot of satisfaction out of work. And sometimes that's been to the detriment of me and my family. So now I love spending time with my family, who also share my passion for being down south and being on the water. So so it's been really great years. So
any close encounters? Because if you're in the water that often, snorkeling, swimming, jet skiing, any close encounters with obviously sharks?
Yeah.
You do have
sharks,
those?
Yes, yeah.
And that doesn't deter you?
No, I think about it every time I get in the water. So I've got a jet ski, which again a year ago I would have hated the thought of, but I absolutely love it. It's this great big fishing jet ski. So I'll go out into the middle of the ocean and just jump in the water and have a paddle around, which a year or so ago would have freaked me out. It still does. Every time I get in the water, it freaks me out. So I'll sort of go out hunting whales or pods of dolphins or things like that. And
do you go with someone?
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes you go by yourself?
Yeah, sometimes by myself.
Wow, okay.
So I'm always tied to the jet ski. So, and you do think about it. But when I was a little kid, I actually, mum and dad had a boat, and I had like a dive board on the back, and I was sailing along. I must have been about 8 or 10, and had my feet hanging over the underside of the boat, and a great white actually came up and rubbed itself against my feet. And I think ever since then I've had this weird fascination with sharks. So if you go onto Insta or anything, all of my feeds are around music, sharks, or whales for some reason. So you know how you get fed into these streams, and so I've got this morbid fascination with them. So they
that's what I was hoping to learn.
They absolutely scare the heck out of me, but at the same time I've got this fascination with them. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Is there anything in this conversation that we didn't get to touch on that you'd like to address?
It's been a really good conversation. I can't think of anything. Yeah. We've gone around all different circles. So.
Well, look, thank you so much, David. Really appreciate having you on.
That's been great. Thank you. Really enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Bye, guys.